What would you do if you found out the person who almost destroyed you and your family was living happily far away? The same person who's the reason you had to struggle and see your family struggle. The person who had made everyone you love cry. If you found that person after several years, what would you do? I ask this because I'm going through that exact scenario. And in my case, it's my aunt who did all this to me and my family. I guess I should give you guys the full contextio. Let me explain what happened. When I saw my family, I really mean my uncle and two cousins. So about 8 years ago, Felix was taken in by my uncle Rob to live with him and his family. Uncle was married to Aunt Esther and had two children, Jimmy and Olive. We both are younger. He took me in after my parents unfortunately passed away in a car accident. My parents raised me well and took great care of me. They were so good that I used to tell myself how lucky I was to have great parents like them. Sad fact, after they passed away, I used to tell myself that they were so good that God also wanted to spend time with them. Believe me, it sounds stupid, but it actually helped me cope with what happened now, and as much as I want to tell you guys that I've fully gotten over it, I can't. It turns out you can't just forget about a thing like this or move away from it. They were a huge part of my life, and they always will be. You just have to learn to live with the pain, but it does get easier bit by bit. Also, I don't want to forget them, and as I want to keep them alive, at least in my memories, I think they would find it sweet. So, after they passed away, Uncle Rob, who I loved very much, took me in because I had nobody else. Everyone in his family already liked me, as I did have a good relationship with him, so I happily moved in. Now, I was not particularly happy about what happened. Honestly, I was depressed, but I was happy that they took me in. Because of everything that has happened for a few months, I did not notice anything. All I noticed was my family telling me everything would be all right, and they were there for me. Even my little cousins would try to cheer me up and get me to smile. Now that I look back on it, I feel very happy that I moved in with them. Even though I know what happened next, I would still choose to move in if given the choice. So after I got a bit better, I learned that my aunt did not like me very much. I didn't notice it at first because of obvious reasons, but slowly I started noticing that she genuinely disliked me being there. I never found out, but I think she didn't want to adopt me, but Uncle did not agree with her, and I never found them arguing about this issue many times. So, my aunt made sure that I knew she did not want me here, and honestly, I should not have, but I did understand where she was coming from. She had a happy and perfect family, and me being there just complicated things. They didn't even earn so much that having me made no difference, so in a way I understood why she disliked me. But it did make me sad that even after having me for several months, I never grew on her even a little bit. She made me work whenever she could without my uncle finding out, and I did it without complaining. I wanted to prove to her that I was no dead weight. My parents early on taught me how to pull my own weight. I did everything to make her happy, but she was never satisfied or happy with me. Like I already said, no matter what I did, I could not grow on her. Even though it hurt a little bit, it did not make me very sad because my uncle and my cousins cared about me and made me feel loved. I believed that no matter how much she hated me, she loved her family, and her family loved me. So everything was going to be all right. Well, guess what? I was very wrong on all those assumptions. My aunt did not love her family, and she later proved it. A few years after I moved in, one day she suddenly vanished into the thin air without a trace. Well, she left a short note, but it only said that she was moving far away as she could not take it anymore. My uncle and I had no idea what she meant by that, but I've always assumed it was me. As much as I wanted to forget that day, it's been stuck in my brain, and I've never been able to forget the crying faces of my cousin, so... In the afternoon, Uncle found the note and asked me if I knew anything. Of course, I had absolutely no idea, and we started looking for her. We checked everywhere she could have gone and talked to every friend that she had, but we found nothing. We had no information other than she was tired of playing games and probably playing family and decided to do something on her own. In a few days, we had to accept the fact that she was not going to come back ever, and we had to handle it ourselves. My younger cousin cried nonstop as she could not believe that her mother would abandon her. I mean, can you believe it? She left an 8-year-old child without thinking once. It made me sad and mad at the same time, but my uncle refused to believe that she could do something like this. He kept believing that there was something else going on. But soon we discovered that she had not just left, but had also done something worse. We soon learned that she had drained my uncle's savings, took my college money, and had run away with everything. My parents had left me some money to use for college, and I decided to give it to my uncle, but he had refused. See, she took it all and ran away without thinking once about how we could manage. It sounds crazy, but it gets worse. She had also taken 2 different loans before running away, and my uncle was left responsible. I couldn't even process all this when I found out, and I refused to believe that somebody could be so cruel to their own family. I mean, can you blame me? Villains in fiction have done less. I will never forget the reaction my uncle had when he found out all of this. Not only has his heart broken since he found out she definitely rolled them over and left with a bunch of money, but she also chose to leave us in a really bad spot. Handicapped, and a person who cares about someone can never do stuff like this. I remember the way he cried, not knowing what to do, and the feeling of pressure of having to take care of all of us in the condition that she had left us in. Honestly, I don't know what to do either, but I'd gone through something so horrible that I was doing better than my uncle. So through that month, I would have to hug him and tell him that we were going to come out of this and be all right. Our situation was actually so dire that Uncle was close to giving up several times, and any other human being would have. But he did not. He kept pushing through, and I did my best to help him, and as soon as I could, I got a job. And I decided to forget about going to college because we barely had enough to eat and keep a roof above our heads because of the loans. We had to sell most of the stuff we had, and honestly, I don't even want to think about that time because those were very dark days. In short, I learned one thing: bad times don't last. Good people do. Because slowly our situation started to improve, and I started making a good amount of money, as I did 2 jobs and so did my uncle. So even though we had it really rough, our cousin got to enjoy their childhood without much worry. I mean, it wasn't great. We couldn't do much, we could afford barely anything, but they were happy. And that was the both me and my uncle wanted. I can't even explain how many times Uncle apologized for making me go through so much, but I told him I was part of their family and I wanted to keep everyone happy just like him. The main motivation I've had was that I told myself it was my fault that Aunt left, and I would not have been able to live with myself if I did not do anything to help. It's now been 5 years since Aunt left, and several months ago we finally became financially stable. We're not rich, but now I could afford to simply go to college if I wanted to. Now, after working hard for so long, I wanted to really take a vacation, something I've been dreaming of for several years. So last month, my uncle forced me to go somewhere, telling me I deserved it, and even though I tried to turn it into a family trip, he refused. So 2 days ago, I came here to a remote mountain town to relax and spend some time in nature far away from home. Well, guess who I saw here? My aunt, the same one who stole everything from us and ran away, and when I saw her, I was shocked. I froze for a second. It was like seeing a ghost. The worst thing was that she had a husband or a boyfriend and what looked like to be an 8-year-old or so son, and was very happy. I refused to believe it, and I had to tell her just to be sure that it was her who I saw. I also ended up tailing them to their home. That was a few hours ago, and now I have 1,000,001 questions and no idea what to do. Obviously, I'm not going to let her happily live like this, but I also don't want to mess this chance up. That's why I came here first. I mean, what do? Do I straight up confront her or tell her boyfriend everything? Or do I do it in secrecy so that she gets surprised at how all of this happened, just like she did to us? For people who read to the end, please help me. I really need some good advice. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's been 2 days since my last update, and although it was not easy to decide, I finally made a decision. Now, a lot of you guys asked me just to let it go and take the high road. You guys recommended that doing whatever I do to her will not make me happy, and I completely understand where you're coming from, but no. I want to tell you guys straight up, thank you for trying to help, but I'm not taking the high road. I'm not going to let the person who made my uncle and cousins cry every day for months and let us be financially crippled for years get away with it. I mean, I believe there are a few people on this planet who do not deserve happiness, and my aunt is one of those people. She doesn't deserve to be happy after what she did to us, and I've decided to take it upon myself to give her what she deserves. And before you guys comment, no, I don't want to hurt the boyfriend and son. They're probably good people, and I want to save them from my aunt, and letting them know is the best way to do it. So, you guys tell me yourself, if you knew that stabbing someone with a fork for a second would help them avoid being stabbed by a machete later on, then isn't that a good thing? Well, that's what I'm going to do. I actually even spoke to them yesterday. Well, not directly, you see. I found out a bunch of stuff, and before that, I was actually also arguing with myself about whether I should tell my uncle about these things. And I actually already did that. So let me tell you what went down. Yesterday, I decided to tell my uncle about this and then try to find out a little information about what my aunt was doing here. Obviously, I cannot talk to her or anything like that, and I felt that talking to even the boyfriend directly was a bit risky. But fortunately, I had made a friend here. See, the day I got here, I met a girl named Eve, who was also traveling and staying in the same place where I was. I told Eve about what I learned yesterday, and she agreed to help me. So I sent her to talk to this boyfriend and find out however much she could. So firstly, when Aunt and the family were together, I took a video of her to send to Uncle. And when she left to get something, I sent in Eve. She sat down with the boyfriend, Bruce, and made a bit of small talk until the aunt came back and then asked about, well, how they met and stuff. Well, let me tell you this, she found out a lot, so thank you, Eve. It turns out Aunt is playing this guy too. Well, that's what I think, at least. So, Bruce is a well-earning guy whose wife passed away many years ago, leaving him with a young son. See, my aunt then pretended to lose her memory completely due to an accident and slowly charmed him into falling for her, and they started dating. I mean, this guy who was already desperate because of the child, so it was probably very easy for her. She's been staying with him since then and has now become a mom to his child. You know, hearing this just made me so mad because she left her actual children and is now living with him, probably because he makes a lot of good money, if I'm guessing. You know, that was more than enough information, after which I sent my uncle the video and told him everything. I did this because I wanted to ask him what he wanted me to do, and of course he had asked me to step away. I still would not have, but I wanted to know what he thought of all this. He calls me up and I could hear the anger in his voice, and he asked me what I was planning to do. I told him that I wanted to tell her boyfriend everything, and I thought he was going to say no to me, but he told me to go ahead and destroy her life just like she did ours. Honestly, now nothing can stop me. I'm going to talk to Bruce when I find him alone, and I'll let you guys know exactly what happens. Update number 2. Hey guys, so it's actually been a few days since my update, and I did get to have a conversation with Brucey, though it did not exactly go as I planned it to go. I still have an opportunity to do what I wanted to do, and I just need to do it better and in a big way. So, let me explain. I kind of tried my best to tail Bruce and Aunt for 2 days, but did not find him alone. I was getting worried that this guy only came out with his girlfriend, but then yesterday I found him at a cafe sipping on coffee. He was probably on a grocery run and had decided to take a few minutes for himself. Well, I actually sat down next to him and told him that what I was about to say was going to sound absurd, but I needed him to hear me out. He smiled and found it interesting enough to agree and asked me to start. I told him my name and just straight up told him that his girlfriend was my aunt who ran away from all of us. It would be fair to say that he was very shocked with the information. I could see it in his eyes that he found it very hard to believe what I was saying. I told him that I could prove it and asked him to trust me until I finished the story. I wanted to tell him everything first because I knew as soon as I proved everything, his brain would just click. I then told him that she did this to us and everything that happened, and he looked very sad for me. This kind of proved to me that he was a good person because he could feel the pain I experienced. A person pretending cannot do that. Only genuinely good people can. So, he said that he was very, very sorry for what I went through, but could not believe it completely, that it could be Aunt Esther, whom he calls Rachel. So I showed him photos and videos Uncle had still not deleted, and it kinda broke his brain, and he started checking if this was a nightmare. I told him I wish it was, and said that she was going to do the same thing to him after a while. I explained to him that this woman left her own children to suffer without feeling guilt, and would not hesitate to make their lives hell too. He stayed silent and was probably trying to process everything that he was hearing. I understand this positioning, and did not say anything and let him, take some time. But he then said something that shocked me. He tells me that even though he didn't want to believe it, there was no way that he could deny my proof. I was happy until he said that he knew that woman he was dating. He said that she might have done this before, but is now a changed person. He said Rachel could not have done this, and would never do something like that. He said that he had even bought a ring for her and was about to propose. I told him his story was going to end like ours, but he refused to listen. He thanked me for warning him and not confronting her in front of his son, and even gave me his number. But before I could tell him anything more, he gets a call from Aunt and ran. Before he could go, I asked him not to tell her a word, and he agreed. I've been thinking, and the thing is, he's not going to believe me no matter how much I try, so I'll just have to show him. I know for sure that if I can contact my aunt alone, I can get her to tell me the truth, proving that she knows who I am and the kind of person that she is. So I'm going to give it a try. But it all depends on Bruce trusting me and letting me show him the truth. Well, either way, I'm going to do it whether he wants me to or not, but it's going to be easier with his help. Updates number 3. Hey guys, it's been almost 2 months and I fully apologize for the late updates. There was a lot going on and I kinda forgot about it for a while, but here I am. I'll not waste your time any longer. So, a week after my last update, I was sure that I had got enough plan and contacted Bruce. I begged him to give me a chance and even prove who she really is. I told him that if he let me to do one thing to prove the truth, I would let everything go and leave it if it did not work. He took some time to consider it, but in the end agreed as he understood why I needed to do this. He was fully confident in his girlfriend, so confident that he had not mentioned anything about me to her at all. So, for the first step, I told him to tell Aunt that he met a weird guy who was trying to tell him that he knew me. He told her that I tried my best to convince him, but he did not doubt her once. And I tried to show him some pictures, but he left. I wanted Aunt to think that I could not convince him one bit so that she would get overconfident. I then contacted my aunt. See, Bruce gave me the number, and I told her that if she did not meet me in my hotel room tomorrow, then I would show Bruce the truth because I had videos and photos of her with her family. I told her that if not now, I would be able to convince him one day, and I was not going to stop trying. So she agreed to meet me and came, and obviously I made sure to hide Bruce in the washroom so that he could hear everything. It was hard to get him to agree, but he did. So as soon as my aunt came in, she started shooting right away. She cursed at me for showing up in her town and called me a plague that refused to let her go. I told her she was the disaster, and I just wanted to warn her victim. She gets mad at that and asked me to leave this place and then threatens to destroy me if I came near her family again. Now, my work at this point was kinda done, but I wanted more. So I asked her why she did what she did. In her absolute anger and overconfidence, she straight up told me that she left because of me and money. She said that she wanted a luxurious life, and with the addition of me on top of her family, it was not possible, so she left. This kind of made me mad, so I asked her, why financially cripple us too? And she said that she had to take something after everything that she had given to the family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, so I asked if she actually cared about this family. She actually said that she did for now, but would move on to someone richer if she could. And I told her how could she do that to the little child who calls her mom? And she said it would not be the first time. I felt like throwing up at how cruel she was. So I told her that I was going to convince her husband no matter what, and she gets really mad. She screamed at me to never come close to her family again and was cursing me. At which point Bruce came out and she saw him. She was very surprised and immediately tried to change her tune, blaming me for what was happening, but it was too late. And he thanked me for everything I did and tried to leave, but she grabbed his hand. She begged him to listen to her, and he told her that he had had enough. He said that she was a demon, not a human, and both he and his son did not even deserve her. Not at all. Oh, she said she was a demon. Anyways, he asked her to never show her face to him again and left, and she ran after him. Just like that. Well, after this, my work was done. But I waited one more day to find that Bruce had thrown everything out and kicked Aunt out of his and his son's life. I met them before leaving and he thanked me again, and said that he had told his son the truth. I told him it was going to be okay, and then I came back, and a week later we got a surprise. See, Aunt just showed up at her house begging forgiveness, and she asked for a second chance and told them that she only had a problem with me but missed them and regretted leaving. I didn't speak because it was true that I was the reason behind it, but my uncle defended me. He did not scream at her or anything and just told her how rough of a situation she left him in and how much work that we had to do to get out of it. He said he did not have a shred of love left for her, and I was his actual family. Aunt was in tears, and in a last-ditch effort, she begged Olive, my cousin, to forgive her. But Olive told her to go to hell, and said that she had absolutely no mother. Well, after she left, but not before threatening me by saying that she was going to get me back, but I've not seen her again. Hopefully I never will. Well, guys, that's it for me, and I want to thank you guys for everything you did. Thank you for your ideas and all your support. It did make me really appreciative. It took me pretty far. Thank you.